The 1998 Dodge Neon has a problem. It makes a noise when you crank the engine over. So the engine starts and runs just fine, but you get kind of this squealing noise. Maybe you could describe it as a grinding noise also, that comes from somewhere under the hood. And the owner of this vehicle thought that maybe it was a problem with the clutch, because it seemed like when they would let their foot out of the clutch, the noise would go away. We've pulled it into the shop, and I don't think it's the clutch. I think the problem is in the starter. So we'll crank this thing over a few times and give you a chance to hear some of the noises that this car is making. One of the noises is a high-pitched kind of squealing, or how would you say, kind of a really high-pitched screaming kind of grinding noise when the engine first fires up, or I should say before the engine fires up. Now typically a lot of people say, oh well, that's a missing tooth off the flywheel or the flex plate, but in this case I don't believe it is. I believe it is the starter drive gear or drive pinion. So the starter is located right down there. We will crank this thing over a few times and see if we can get it to make all the different noises that they're saying that this thing makes. But it's looking like a bad starter, so let's listen to some of the noises that a bad starter makes. Okay, go ahead and crank it. There it goes. Go ahead, hit it again. So that is the starter drive hanging up, not wanting to come out. Okay, turn it off. Let's try cranking it again. Okay. One more time. Okay. I think it's pretty obvious that starter drive pinion is not coming out properly, and it is not going back properly. So it's either hanging up coming out, which is what makes the starter scream before the engine cranks, or it's hanging up when it retracts, which is what makes that screaming sound after the engine starts. But that starter's got to come out. So we've got the starter out, and here is the drive pinion on the end of the starter, and you can see those teeth. The teeth on the pinion are all kind of shaved down, like like they've been rubbing against the teeth on the flywheel. And so this is definitely a problem. Not only that, but this pinion is actually it's actually out too far. It shouldn't be this far out. It should be more receded back into there. And if I take this screwdriver and push it, you can see, you hear it kind of click back in. That's where it ought to rest, is right there. But it's getting stuck. So if I pry on this thing, it should come out of there smoothly, but it doesn't. If I put enough effort into it, you can see it does come out. Okay. But when I let go of it, it should snap back. It doesn't really snap back. So our starter drive is completely messed up. So I push it back in, it goes back in again. Obviously, starter is bad, and we knew that, but when you pull a part out like this that you've condemned, and you see this kind of concrete evidence that, yeah, this starter is definitely bad, that's always a good thing. Now, just for the heck of it, let's walk over here and let's have a look at the teeth on the flywheel. If I can get a light up in there, then we ought to be able to have a look at those. So there's the teeth on the flywheel, and you can see they really don't look that bad. You can see we have been making contact on the side of those teeth or at least the side of the teeth that's facing us. So there has been contact made, but those teeth are mostly, they're okay. Now with that weird zinging noise that you hear when you hit the key to crank, and the engine doesn't actually crank, you just get that loud zing. So often you hear people say, well, there's teeth missing off the flywheel. There's teeth missing off the flywheel, so the pinion teeth just don't have anything to mesh with. So if you hit the key a few more times, then it will crank, and then the engine starts. So what we need is a new flywheel. That is almost never the case. Almost never. I mean, it's exceptionally rare, but you hear that all the time. Oh, teeth missing off the flywheel. No, it's a bad starter. I would say 9 times out of 10, if you get that little zing before you start the engine, it's a bad starter. If it really was bad teeth on the flywheel and you got to that bad spot, then when you hit the key to try to crank the engine, nothing would happen. That's, the engine wouldn't turn over. But with this situation, the engine would eventually turn over. So bad starter. You can see the teeth on that starter pinion are obviously softer metal than the teeth on the flywheel, and that's on purpose. So we're gonna get a starter for this thing, and we should have it fixed up and everything should be working just fine.